I really don't think you should provoke somebody like that, Barb.
Oh, listen, this guy's minor league in the city. I get 2 of those a day.
If you're a fan of horror and never dive deep into the origins of the slasher tropes, this movie might be for you. If you're big into holidays, but can't really decide which one you love the most, Halloween or Christmas, this movie might be for you. To me, this movie was a revelation and a surprise in a movie that does horror that combines with a Hitchcock thriller and a modern slasher movie. But is it any good? Let's find out. I'm Meffistoe. Like, share, and subscribe because this is my review of the movie Black Christmas. Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark and written by Roy Moore, is one of the most influential horror movies that only horror movies aficionados know about. I mean, I'm far from being a movie expert per se, but I have seen my fair share of obscure films in my life. But because I'm not huge into the genre, this one slipped my viewing eyes until recently, when we covered it on the live show. The reason why it is so influential, because it laid down the foundation of what we know of today as a slasher genre, which adds to another influential film that came out at the same year that added another facet to the genre. The year is 1974, and the movie is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You really are too much, Barb. Oh, come on, this is a sorority house, not a convent.
Black Christmas tells the tale of a sorority house a few days before Christmas. While the party is going on downstairs, a prowler enters the house and hides in the attic. Later on in the night, we witness a prank call of what the girls refer to as the Moaner. Seems that this thing has been happening for a while now, but this time around, the caller seems more agitated. But this is of course just the beginning, as the prowler snatches one of the girls that night and starts a chain reaction that involves the girl's father, the police, and the sorority sisters, as the prowler intends on picking them off one by one.
He's expanded his act.
The movie stars mostly young, unknown actors, mostly from Canada. The only well-known faces are John Saxon, who plays the police detective Fuller, and one of the sorority sisters, Barb, played by Margot Kidder. But back then, she was relatively unknown. But the lead, of course, is Olivia Hussey, who plays Jess. Her character is one of the most well-developed in the movie and has the most elaborate side story of the sisters, as she keeps on arguing with her boyfriend Peter, played by none other than Keir Dullea, the most famous actor in the cast, since he was the main actor in Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece 2001: Space Odyssey. And in the few scenes he has been in, you can tell he's also the best actor there.
I'm tired of having to line up behind 6 people every time I want to take a bath. I've had it.
What is special about the movie itself is mostly due to the way it was shot. For the most part, it is your bog standard film. However, whenever the prowler or the killer is involved, we always see his point of view, or POV. It is like we see it through his eyes as he stalks these girls and giving us an eerie view into his own mind. Believe it or not, this is the first movie that used this technique in a horror movie. And yes, if you want to split hairs here, the movie Peeping Tom from 1960 did something similar to this, but not like this. Plus, in Peeping Tom, you get to see the killer. Bob Clark, the director, adamantly insisted that you'll never get to see the killer in full. You sometimes see his hands or one of his eyes, but never in full. This was intentional to keep that Hitchcockian mystery and the thriller alive up to the end and keep the audience guessing who is this killer slash stalker. And tied into that is the killer's motives for the murders. Through the many phone calls in the film, and this is only if you're carefully listening to them, you might pick up pieces out of the story or points of reference, and of course Easter eggs that might give you a clue on who this man is and why he might do the deed. And to be perfectly honest, the first time I saw this movie, I didn't think about it at all. But in the second viewing, things kind of fell into place.
Yeah, Felicia. One of the girls that was in this afternoon gave it to me.
She gave it to you.
Another trope that Black Christmas kind of started was the final girl. If you know the basic tropes of the slasher film, you know that the purest version normally is the one that makes it through. In Black Christmas, you kind of get it, although the movie does manage to misdirect you if you're going with this particular mindset. I have to admit it, the person I thought would make it through the end did not. However, I do have to mention, and this is without revealing anything, that the movie was made in 1974 and it is very progressive for its time, putting in a few female empowerment things that I did not expect and came out of left field. Did it bother me? No, because it did fit within the storyline context and had bearing on directing you, and of course misdirecting you, towards finding the answer of what is really going on.
Oh, Claire's a good girl, Mr. Harrison. I wouldn't want you to get the wrong idea about that. She is a good girl.
As I said, Black Christmas was very influential on the slasher genre, with John Carpenter himself praising it, saying it really inspired him to make Halloween, and designing Michael Myers in the same stalking vein as the Prowler, with using POV camera at the start of the movie. But it wasn't just Carpenter. Many horror film creators took inspiration from this movie and built on its tropes to develop and expand them to what the slasher subgenre became in the 80s and early 90s. But the movie also has a weird legacy. First of all, it was the first studio-approved movie that had the dreaded C word in it, and it was used in the worst context you can ever imagine. I'm sorry, I do have to be YouTube safe for these reviews. Otherwise, you would have seen a clip of it. But that's not the weird part. The movie was set to air on NBC Network on January 28th, 1976, about 2 years after it was released in theaters. However, 2 weeks prior, a serial killer entered a sorority house in Florida and dispatched a couple of female students and assaulted several more in a different sorority house. That man was none other than the infamous Ted Bundy. Obviously, after a lot of public pressure, NBC had to pull the screening altogether.
Sick and tired of everyone in this house insinuating stuff and not coming out with what they mean. Barb, why don't you go upstairs and lie down for a while?
To sum up, I will recommend you take the time and watch this movie. Even for a tame horror movie watchers, this one is more of a thriller than a slasher, because most of the brutality is done off screen and you rarely see any blood at all. It was actually a great experience going back and watching this thing and getting to see where all the inspiration is coming from to the horror genre. As someone who has seen quite a few slasher films, especially in the last 3 years, I can now say I'm glad I went back and experienced this one that inspired it all. If modern slashers had a mother and a father, it would be Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hello? Who is this?
I thank you for watching, and remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I'll see you on the next video.